It's that time of year again, where I sum up my year of board gaming, one of my favorite hobbies. One year I did a top 10 list, and last year I just broke the board games into different categories. I think I'll be sticking to the categories because the thought of breaking 90 games down and choosing a top 10 seems overwhelming, to be honest. I also wanted to do this video in January. A lot of personal life stuff and getting sick really prevented me from doing that. But anyway, this year I'll talk about our personal go-to intro games, all the new games that we really enjoyed, some notable roll and writes, our tried and trues, and of course, I have to talk about some aesthetically pleasing games. So without further ado, let's get started. Some of these games that I'll be talking about are probably repeats for anyone who has watched my board game stuff in the past, but these are the board games we own that are our go-tos for our first board game night with a group. Seven Wonders is a quick drafting game, which, if you don't know what drafting is, you start with a certain amount of cards, choose one, and then pass the rest of your hand to the next player. Played over 3 rounds, collecting various resources in order to build your wonder of the world, as well as various ways to collect points. This game is a lot of fun to play up to 6 to 7 people, and if you want an even simpler version of the game, get Seven Wonders Architects, where you have a similar component of collecting resources to build your wonder, but you only get to choose from your neighbor's stack of cards. These next few games we got in 2024. Cartographers is a drawing, flip, and write game where you have 4 seasons to create a map that will earn you the most points. Each card flipped gives you a certain shape that you must draw on your map, but you want to also keep track of the various seasonal bonuses that everyone in the game is going for. You can also sabotage your fellow players when an enemy card is pulled, drawing the enemy shape on your opponent's map anywhere you want. Another quick, compelling game to play with your friends. It's also really fun to see how everyone draws their maps, and adding colorful markers enhances the experience in my opinion. Waterfall Park is a simple collecting and negotiating game where you are trying to build the biggest amusement park. You have a certain amount of colored frames, indicating these are the attractions you own. You want to collect sets of attractions, 3, 4, or 5 pieces, to accumulate income. The more completed attractions you have, the more income you'll get. But you are getting random placements and random attractions, where you then want to negotiate with your fellow players for either changing the placement of your attraction or the kind of attractions you have. Whoever has the most income at the end of 4 rounds wins. Diced Veggies is a unique dice rolling and set collecting game. You have 2 recipes you can work on at a time, with certain colored dice that represents your ingredients. Collect all the dice by using the cleaver to chop the ones that match your recipe, and you complete it. But you can only collect the amount of dice whose value total equals 10. You also have different hype cards that you can attach to each recipe, each with their own prerequisites to complete. But they give your recipes great bonuses. A simple, satisfying game. We usually play board games with just 4 people, my husband and I, and then the various couples that have become our staple fellow board gamers, like my sister and brother-in-law. But on the occasional family gatherings or larger social settings, we both really enjoyed playing the game called Just One, where everyone has their own wide erase board, and each player takes a turn guessing a certain word from the card provided. All other players have to write a hint to help the player out, but if anyone writes the same clue, those players are eliminated from that round and can't help the guessing player. This game can easily become a super silly time, and it's fun to see how people's minds work. You play until you want to stop, basically, or if you guess 13 correct, you have beat the game. It's really a fun collaborative game for sure. Technically, all the rest of these games that I will be talking about belong under the new category, as they were new to us this past year, but I've also divided them into other categories as well for specific talking points. But here are some new games that we played this year that really stuck out in my mind, and I enjoy playing them. And for extra fun, they are in alphabetical order. In Bad Company, you play as different teams of criminals, trying to evade the police, but also completing heists along your path to safety. You have a team of 11 gang members, each one having a specific set of skills that will help you complete heists or gather resources. The active player will roll 4 dice, dividing those dice into 2 pairs. The sum of those pairs activating the corresponding gang member on your board. The other players get to choose 1 pair to activate on their board. You can upgrade your gang members so they provide more bonuses for you and to help you pull off more heists, creating hilarious, elongated-looking characters. But you also need to keep ahead of the police car chasing you. Whoever reaches the end of the track first or completes 6 heists triggers the end of the game. Whoever has the most points wins. The art style and the hilarious mechanism of upgrading your gang members were probably my personal favorite, and the various parts of gameplay made this a very fun game to play. Bitoku was a late birthday present in a game I had never heard of. It gives off huge Studio Ghibli vibes and is based on various Eastern legends. The great spirit of the forest will ascend soon, and each player is vying to become that next great spirit. This game is meaty, as I like to call more complicated games, with your own tableau, deck, and engine building components, worker placement and collecting various yokai cards, pairing mitamas and fireflies, and sending your pilgrim out on the path to collect even more bonuses. There are ample ways to collect points, and whoever has the most will ascend to become the next great spirit of the forest. Bosa is a colorful tableau building card stacking game where you collect colorful buildings that provide various resources and bonuses to your personal inventory. Each card you collect, placing it in either your row or column, will activate the bonuses connected to that row or column, helping you gather resources to trade for money or vice versa, all in helping you gather points for the end of the game. This one was a simple, quick, and pretty game. Comic Hunters is exactly what it sounds like. You are collecting various editions of Marvel comic books. Players will visit 3 of the 4 locations where they can purchase comic book cards, over 3 rounds. At the end of the round, players must place cards on the table to start or expand their collections. When adding a comic to a hero's collection, the player will move his markers on the icon tracks according to the spotlight icons of the new card in play. Number 1, first appearance, new visual, special edition, and memorable clashes. The further the player advances on each track, the more points they get. In addition, each collection scores based on the number of cards it contains and the value the comic book character offers. After 3 rounds, the player with the most points wins. Because of the variety of the spotlight icons, the interchangeable value of the characters, and the randomness of how the cards will be dealt, this game has huge replayability. And as a huge Marvel nerd, this is a really fun flavor of game. Build your own version of Jurassic Park in the game Dinosaur World, where you must hire workers, build attractions, collect dinosaur DNA, have dinosaur enclosures, and of course, driving through your amazing dinosaur park, trying to avoid as many casualties as possible. The more dinos, the more excitement, but also the more danger. You need to place your tiles in the right way, not only to make it an exciting path for your visitors, but also to strategically collect resources and points. This game, with its variety of actions and outcomes, made this game extremely fun and unpredictable. Another game that I had never heard of and found at a secondhand store, Dojo-kun, is where each player heads one of the 4 dojos, tiger, crane, bear, or cobra, to train and recruit athletes, buy new training machines, expand your dojo, go on adventures, and eventually lead your athletes into winning the martial arts tournament. Over 2 seasons, there are 3 preparation turns in which players will manage their dojo and train their athletes, with only a number of spaces available for all players. Athletes can also learn special techniques by visiting one of the ancient masters hidden in the central part of the board. Each season ends with the martial arts tournament, where each dojo can send up to 2 athletes. Combat between athletes is simulated by throwing a set of custom dice. There are 4 different dice, one for each fighting technique, and players will roll dice according to their athlete's experience level. Before a fight, the players that are not attending can also predict the winner of that fight to gain prestige. The game ends with a final grand tournament in which a new champion will be crowned. At the end of the 2nd season, the dojo with the most prestige points will win the game. Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth is definitely my husband and I's new favorite 2-player game. With similar components to Seven Wonders, where you collect various cards over 3 rounds, you either play as the dark forces of Sauron or as mankind. With various ways to win, by either having dominance over Middle-earth, taking the ring to Mount Doom, or capturing the hobbits before they reach there, or having 6 of the 7 races represented in your tableau, the replayability and outcome of this game is always changing, usually a neck-and-neck game till the very end. With beautiful work from Vincent Dutray and the simple mechanics, this game is a fun one to play again and again. I finally got to play Quacks of Quedlinburg last year, a game I've only heard good things about, and it proved that the hype was true. Each player is trying to brew their own concoction, trying to earn the most points by placing their random chips into the swirling pattern. The higher the face value of the drawn chip, the further it is placed in the pot's swirling pattern. But with the random cherry bombs in each player's collection, your brew might explode if you ever have the number of cherry bombs value higher than 7. Depending on if your brew exploded or not at the end of the round, players can collect coins to buy various ingredients that will add bonuses and points to your brew. But if your brew exploded, then you can only choose to collect points or coins, but not both. Whoever has the most points at the end of 9 rounds wins. The push your luck components mixed with the strategic bonus ingredients makes this game fun and entertaining, and the various types of ingredients you can add makes it replayable as well. These last 2 games were some of my absolute favorites of the year. First being Slay the Spire, which was originally released as a video game, which is really cool. The board game allows you to play with 4 players instead of just solo mode. It's a roguelike cooperative game where you take one of 4 specific characters that have their own unique deck that you can build upon and level up cards as you and your party travel through the spire. You can travel through and fight enemies, collect treasures, and again, upgrade your deck to be the most powerful it can be as you travel through 3 different acts, fighting final bosses at the end of each act, with various paths you can choose to make your adventure unique each time. The combat is super simple and exciting, utilizing your deck of cards and different attacks to work together to defeat all the enemies. And the further you get into the Spire, the more achievements, attacks, and treasures you unlock, and then you can use for your playthrough, making you want to play more. A well-made game that really does keep all the video game feeling aspects in it while making it extremely fun in a board game. But throwing away camaraderie and teamwork and switching over to a free-for-all battle, we were introduced to Thunder Road Vendetta. Literally think of the car chase scenes from Mad Max Fury Road. Each player has 3 different cars, small, medium, and large, that all simultaneously are racing and battling the other player's cars. Plus, you have a helicopter that can be placed along the track to bomb a car if they happen to end on that space. Players move by rolling dice and assigning each dice's value to various actions they can take, including moving along the track, fixing up a damaged vehicle, hitting the NOS to get ahead, and sending out your helicopter. Not to mention, if you are near enough to a vehicle, you can fire at them to get off the road. Plus, through the expansions, your cars can have specific upgrades to either negate damage, utilize speed, and much more. Whoever crosses the finish line or is the last to survive wins. This game was an absolute blast due to its unpredictability. With the various track tiles that have their own hazards and terrain, to the various car upgrades, and just how the dice rolls, this game was by far one of the most fun games I've played this past year, even though in my experiences I haven't won yet, but that just makes me want to get on the road again. Real quickly, I just want to talk about a few writing games that I really enjoyed playing this past year. Boomerang USA was a draft and write game that seems like a great game to have on the go. Every player gets a tiny map of the US, and there are various ways to score points. Just like other drafting games, you get a handful of cards, choose one, and then pass. But with Boomerang, you want to look out for a few things. First off, the number in the left-hand corner is important because after you collect your 7 cards, your last card needs to have a value higher than the card at the beginning of your line of cards in order to score. Every card also has 2 icons on it. That can either be the blue activity, the type of animal seen, or a green icon. You'll score how many matching icons you have of each, some values being multiplied by others, while the type of blue icon you choose can only be scored once per round. And finally, each card has a letter on it which you will mark on your map. The first person who fills in all circles on a certain section of the US gets points, and whoever connects the East Coast to the West Coast first gets points. Whoever has the most points by the end of 4 rounds wins. Again, this is a great 2-player game and small enough game to bring on your own road trip. Another great roll and write game, The Fox Experiment, you'll breed your own domesticated foxes. In each round, you'll select a pair of fox parents who have certain traits. And you can name them, which is one of my favorite parts. You'll gain those specific trait dice, roll them, then try to make complete trait symbols, which you'll then mark off on your pup card. You'll then gain trait tokens depending on how many traits you marked off, which will help you use to upgrade tracks on your personal player board, granting you more bonuses and abilities the more you upgrade. At the end of the round, the previous generation of foxes will be cleared, and all of the new pups that you just created will be moved to the kennel, thus becoming candidates to be chosen as parents for the next round. The game ends after 5 rounds, and you'll gain points for pleasing patrons, end-of-game scoring bonuses, studies completed, personal player objectives, if you ever won the Friendliest Fox Award, upgrades on your personal player board, and extra tokens. The player with the most points wins. If you are a fan of any of the Stonemaier games, then try out Rolling Realms. In Rolling Realms, players compete to earn the most stars in a series of minigames over 3 rounds. Each minigame represents a previously published Stonemaier game and has rules that reflect that game. Each turn, one player rolls 2 dice, and all players use the dice results on their realm cards to generate resources and earn stars. Resources can help you change your dice value, even sometimes adding another dice to be able to add into their realms, and much more. After 3 rounds, the players with the most stars wins. It also has a great solo mode where you play mini-golf and try the various holes, or different variety of mini-games, and see how well you do. One of the most intimidating roll and writes I have ever seen before, Three Sisters, is a very strategic game based off an indigenous agricultural technique still widely used today in which 3 different crops, pumpkins, corn, and beans, are planted close together. Each player has 2 sheets to write on and has 2 main actions they can take. Over 8 rounds, you'll roll dice based on the number of players, group them by number, and then place them on an action space on the central action wheel, starting with the current position of the farmer, which moves each round. Once the dice have been placed, each player drafts 1 die and uses it to plant or water the numbered zone matching that die, or take the action you removed the dice from. Once everyone has drafted a die, all players get to use the lowest value die remaining on the action wheel. Many of the tracks are interconnected with other elements in the game, giving you bonuses along the way. The circles represent when you actually gain the bonus or good. At the end of the round, all players receive a bonus action, either rain that waters all numbered zones in your garden, a trip to the shed, which gives you in-game upgrades, or a visit to the farmer's market, which gives you bonuses. After 8 rounds, you score points for harvested crops, perennials, the apiary, fruit, and some shed items. Whoever has the most points wins. This one has a lot of moving parts, but I really do love the in-depth strategy and various ways to collect points. A memorable roll and write to be sure. These are my personal tried and true games that I love to go back to and play, which as I'm looking at this little list, I realize there is definitely a theme going on here. First off, Ark Nova. I love the combo of collecting animals, tile placement, and balance of filling your zoo and earning conservation points by gathering certain sponsorship cards or releasing animals back into the wild. Truly a game that fits my video game style of play as well. A good amount of strategy along with the luck of the draw and how the cards are dealt. This is one of my all-time faves. Another, you guessed it, set collecting type of game is Earth. I talked about this game last year as well, and I just love the tactile components of growing your plants on the cards, collecting specific types of plants or areas depending on not only your personal game goals but the public goals as well. And again, balancing set collecting and recycling your cards to earn as many points as possible. Both a great balance of strategy and unpredictability, making it a favorite for me to play again and again, each outcome different. And finally, let's go to Japan. This game has stolen my heart in various ways, from again, a set collecting game, a drafting game, adding that unpredictability, and having the game based on real life things you can do in Japan with beautiful watercolored artwork. It has it all. Balancing between going to Tokyo or Kyoto and having enough train tickets to do both, you are also collecting various types of activities and experiences to earn as many points as possible. If you spend too much money or exert yourself too much, that can lower your mood, but it's nothing like a good walk or a nice train ride can't fix. With a plethora of cards, different player type bonuses, and just the imagining of how a trip to Japan could go, this game has a lot of replayability, and with its day trip expansion, you can add even more activities to your trip's plans. Really a lovely game. Bouncing off of Let's Go to Japan, as I said with its beautiful watercolor artwork, let's dive into some more beautiful games that I've played. Wormspan also has some beautiful work of dragons, and the game board has some beautifully depicted caves and environments. I love Wingspan, so Wormspan wasn't going to disappoint, and the tactile eggs and the difference in gameplay really made Wormspan a great Wingspan variant. And now apparently they're going to do a Finspan? I guess it's the fish's turn to get some love. I've talked about this artist before, and now it's just a common thing for my brother-in-law and I to talk about, Vincent Dutray's stunning work on the various board games he illustrates, including this game, 10 Penny Parks. Think Roller Coaster Tycoon, where you are working to create an entertaining amusement park, placing various shaped attractions on your player board, making sure to clear any trees that are in the way, as well as expanding your park to have room for all the attractions. Different attractions elicit different emotions, and depending on your personal goals, you might be fighting for the same attractions. So make sure you have enough money and room. The person with the most VP, visiting persons, at the end of 5 rounds wins. Again, the art of Vincent Dutray is beautiful, and the tactile elements, including the merry-go-round that you move to change the value of the actions, is lovely. Talking about games where you have to fit pieces into a specific space, Penny Black was another beautiful tactile game. The gorgeous artwork on the stamps, the tactile pieces and fittings of the stamps onto your board scratched that aesthetic itch for me. The various restrictions and goals that you have to follow in your board adds a good amount of tension to make the game not extremely easy to master on the first go. But mainly for me, it was the look of the game that I really liked. I remember adding this to my wish list and then forgetting about it, but once I saw it at the store, I was like, Harmonies! And so I'm glad I bought this game. Harmonies is a tile placement game where you create different patterned habitats for the animals that match the pattern. In your limited spaces, you want to make sure where you place is strategic and can work off other patterns as well. You can have up to 4 animal cards in your inventory to work off of, each pattern completed on your board getting you points by placing a Juby onto the specific piece in your pattern. But no more than 1 Juby can be on 1 piece. Once someone has 2 open spaces or less left on their board, the game ends and you score based on the number of animal patterns you have completed and also the different terrain you have placed on your mat. I was immediately taken in by the art style of this game, and the tactile, colorful wooden pieces are satisfying to hold in place. And I love the large tarot-sized cards for the animals, so we can really appreciate the artwork. A pretty simple but beautiful game. And our final game we are talking about is Agueda, City of Umbrellas. Another simpler game where you fill your streets with different colored umbrellas, trying to follow specific patterns to earn the most points possible and complete a beautifully colored mural on your player board. After placing your umbrellas, you will select 1 or 2 tourists and move them onto one of the 3 rows of umbrellas to score that row. Careful placement of your umbrellas will unlock sections of your mural, which will also add more tourists into your pool to place out on your board. Once a player has filled up their board, scoring of your arrangement of umbrellas will be based on both the standard scoring placement rules plus the varying communal shop card objectives. This game again just scratched that aesthetic itch with tactile pieces, colorful and cohesive design, and utilizing the pretty as part of the strategy. Like I said, I played 90 different board game titles, not counting repeat plays in 2024, and these were just a quarter of the games I played. What were some of your favorite board games? Did you see any on my list that interested you? Did you see your faves on here? Let me know down below. Thanks for letting me share my interests with y'all, and I'll be back next week for more art content, specifically another Popcross fan art with Starseed Psyche. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll end it with my list of all the games I played. Bye! 7 Wonders, 7 Wonders Architects, Agueda, City of Umbrellas, Animated, Apiary with Expanding the Hive expansion, Aquatica, Arc Nova, Azul, Bad Company, Batoku, Boomerang USA, Bosa, Canvas with Reflections expansion, Cartographers, Castles of Burgundy, Champions of Midgard, Clank Catacombs, Codenames, Comic Hunters, Creature Comforts, Cribbage, Cubitos, Cyclades, Diced Veggies, Dimension, Dinosaur World, Dog Park, Dojo-kun, Dominion Allies, Dream Home, Dune Imperium Uprising, Earth, Everdell Farshore, Expeditions, Fantasy Realms, Far Away, Flamecraft, Flip 7, Forbidden Island, Freelancers, Frosthaven, Great Western Trail, Harmonies, Hearts, Heat Pedal to the Metal, Hekadeck, Iki Akabano, Ion, Just One, Let's Go to Japan, Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth, Lost Ruins of Arnak, Marvel Dice Throne, Mountain Goats, Nerds, Parks, Penny Black, Quacks of Quedlinburg, Quartz, Raw, Rat-a-Tat Cat, Rolling Realms, Root, Sagrada, Santa's Workshop, Sky Team, Slay the Spire, Spades, Splendor, Starship Captains, Scythe, Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza, Take 5, Tapestry, 10 Penny Parks, That's Pretty Clever, The Fox Experiment, The White Castle, 3 Sisters, Thunder Road Vendetta, Tiny Towns, Tribes of the Wind, Twice as Clever, Viticulture, Waterfall Park, Wingspan, Wizard, World Wonders, Wormspan, Yahtzee.